I'm here with Aaron Hammel in beautiful California, Burbank, California.
Burbank, California.
Owner-operator of Patriot Camera Cars. How you doing, Aaron?
Good.
Yeah? Good.
Nice to be here.
I'm happy you're doing this. Thank you so much. Well, let's start out with your creds, right?
Okay.
We'll talk about how many years you've been doing this and maybe some of the shows that you've worked on.
Okay. Got into this around 2001.
Okay.
So it's been a while.
Yeah, about 24 years. Huh?
Yeah. As far as credits go, I've worked on a little of everything.
Right, because you day play on a lot of different shows.
Yeah. When they need my tool, it's usually a day or two here and there. It's not something generally that you'll get like on a whole movie with or TV show or any of that. So when they need me, they call me.
Right.
The stuff I've been working on lately, a show called Dakota, which I don't know if I'm allowed to say the real title.
That was a working title, okay.
The working title is Dakota. Another one, working title is Latitude. Been doing some of that. Got another show coming up that we'll be working on in the next few days called Nemesis. Another show called Shrinking that I think they're on their 3rd season now. There's so many.
Okay,
It's hard to just throw them out there.
24 years of...
Yeah, and then just commercials thrown in constantly as well. So a lot of TV, a lot of commercials. When there is movies, I do the movies, but hasn't been too many movies lately. Yeah.
Really? Mostly television commercials?
Yeah, I did 1 or 2, a handful of days on some movies this year, but not a lot.
Not a lot, wow.
Not a lot, yeah. Last year there was a handful, though. Yeah.
Well, let's take it way back then.
Okay.
Let's go back 24 years and tell us how this all started.
Well, I was working at a place called Planet Electric.
Planet Electric.
Yeah, they built like electric neighborhood cars / golf carts, a lot of one-off weird stuff. Those guys actually had the very first, as far as I know, purpose-built electric camera car.
Okay.
And I would see it go out renting every once in a while. And it's like, that thing's a little rough. It could be better.
Right.
But yet it still would rent. As far as I knew, it was the only one that existed. So probably 6 months later, I meet a key grip named Herb Alt that owns a company called Grip Tricks.
Okay.
And he was one of the guys that would rent it.
Okay.
So we got to talking, and before you know it, we're buying some of these neighborhood electric cars, and I'm over at Grip Tricks modifying them to be camera vehicles.
So you have these electric carts and you're modifying it
Correct.
The way it was that he was renting it before, but now he's deciding that he wants his own.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
So basically, both of us saw a business opportunity.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I was in no place financial wise to do it on my own. Plus, I didn't have the know-how of the film industry. And Mr. Alt, he did. He had all of that. So
you combine both of your strengths.
Exactly. So I went to work for him, basically. And
so you leave the other job.
Go work for him.
You saw the really good opportunity to do something really cool here.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And it was definitely a rocky start. I built one car with the other one following behind, kind of building 2 of everything as I go. I like to do it that way. Probably about 5 or 6 months later, we're starting to rent the thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So starting to grow some legs. People are starting to know that he has these things.
Right. But it was definitely rocky. It's a tool that people just are like, oh, we'll just get a golf cart. Why do we want to use that? You know, why do we want to
Right.
pay all that money for that thing? You know, so it was a little bit of struggle at first, but people started seeing the value in it. You know, you can rig it quickly. It's made to hold the weight. You could put the weight anywhere on the car. You could easily put a camera out front. Where on a golf cart, it's extremely difficult to put a camera out front. So people started seeing the value
Right.
in these things. It all had, you know, air suspension. So wherever you put the weight, you could balance the thing out.
And that's something you put in.
It's something we put in.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you take an electric cart and you modify it. That's
Correct.
That was the start.
Yeah, it was a cheese plate car, you know.
Yeah.
So we would just put cheese plate everywhere, and it was heavy. It's definitely heavy. But it did the job.
Okay.
And it did it well.
Right.
You know, the throttle response was real smooth. So it's not like a golf cart. You kind of touch the throttle and it usually lurches a little and goes. It's very smooth. And at that time, you know, it was mostly Steadicam we'd put on there.
Right.
And Steadicam really needs it to be smooth.
Yes.
You know, it makes a huge difference being smooth. And so that was the huge advantage. You know, we could mount Steadicam anywhere on the car, and we could be smooth, so we could get these shots really nice.
Nice. So you guys gain a reputation,
Yeah,
right? As, oh, there's this one guy that's got this cart. Grip Tricks has these carts.
right.
You should rent them. You can put Steadicam. It's really smooth, better than
Yeah.
a regular golf cart. And now you guys have essentially a cinematic tool now, right?
Correct.
That people are starting to.
Yeah, people are starting to want to use it and
Okay.
rent it, and it was. I'd say the first 2 years were pretty slow. I mean, there was a time when I left Grip Tricks because they didn't have the money to pay me anymore, and there wasn't enough jobs coming in.
Got
So
it.
I left for probably close to a year.
Wow.
Yeah, and I would come in on the weekends and still build stuff, but I had another job. So
Okay.
yeah,
So this is a part-time job,
initially
at
it was
that
a full-time job.
and then it went to a
Then I
part-time
went
job.
to a part-time job.
Okay. So when did it become full-time for you?
It started getting busier with the cars probably 2004.
Okay.
So 3 years later,
Right.
you know, and it just got to the point where I could just do that. You know, the money from the film industry is just a lot more than what you could just make out in the world, it seems like.
Right.
You know, with no education, you know, no college education. I'm self-taught with pretty much everything I do.
Wow.
So it was really nice to start making some real money, you
Right.
know? And that's a huge draw, but the job is also very enjoyable. I love building things. I love assembling things. I love driving things. So it all kind of worked together.
Well, did you also drive at that time when you were with Grip Tricks? Were you making the vehicles and driving
Yes.
the vehicle at the same time?
Yes.
Okay, so how was it when you got on set knowing that you had a product and you also had to perform at the same time?
I think what was in my favor is there was no set way of doing it with this thing.
Okay.
So I had to just learn the film industry and the tools, and it was great because Herbold gave me a modern studio equipment catalog.
Okay, learn these parts.
And he says, study this. And that was great.
Yeah,
I mean, it was invaluable because I learned, I would look at the pictures, I would learn the names because there's all kinds of funny names.
Yes.
I would learn the names and I'd get out on set and I'd recognize the tools.
Okay.
So that all worked really good. You
Okay.
know, I took it serious. I studied that thing.
Right.
Yeah. So it was a little odd initially on set, just because it's a different world.
Yeah, because you didn't start off as a grip or a dolly
Right.
grip.
Exactly.
You started off as what I understand to be like a fabricator.
Right.
And then you're fabricating these tools, and then you're also having to be on the set with these tools,
Right.
operating the tool, you're the only one that can operate the tool.
Yeah, there's only a couple of us that knew it. Between me and her, we're about the only ones that knew it.
Yeah, and the only note is like feather the stop, feather the beginning, and
but see, no one even told us that. Like, no one even said that. It's just,
really?
For
Not
me,
even
that was more natural. It's just, you got this guy with the Steadicam on there, and you don't want to. You could tell you don't want to be jerky. You could.
So you're picking this
see
up.
That I was picking it up. Yeah. So and some guys will be like, oh, go a little easier on the stop.
Okay.
But it also depends on the shot. Sometimes the shot is hammer it,
right,
and then stop. That's the shot. And hopefully you got a really good Steadicam operator at that point. Yeah.
So you're learning as you're going, right?
Correct.
You're learning from every single job, putting it together. So how do we go from working with Grip Tricks to Patriot?
Well, I was with Grip Tricks for about 10 years.
Wow, 10 years.
I left in 2011.
Okay.
Things just got a little odd. It was time to move on.
So time to move on. You move on. You're saying to yourself, still great product.
Totally.
People are starting to really really enjoy working with these vehicles. The calls are coming in.
Yeah.
And you're thinking to yourself, why not, right?
Yeah, why not continue with this?
Okay.
I partnered with another company.
Okay.
At that point, I had a ton of new ideas. I felt like I was a little limited on what we had, starting from something.
So you mean a golf cart?
Starting from the high-end neighborhood cart, which was like a little car. It really was. It was designed very well, but it was still limited.
Okay.
I wanted a longer wheelbase. I wanted a little bit bigger of a car. Not much, but a little bit. I wanted a little long. I needed the front to be exactly the same as the rear.
Okay.
And that was something that wasn't accomplished on the Grip Tricks cars. And a bunch of little things that it just can make it way better. Okay. So I kind of kept those ideas in my head. And, and went over to a company called TCC.
Okay.
And partnered with them and built some cars over there with all these new ideas.
Okay.
And there was some teething problems with the new ideas. That one of the things I really wanted was something 4-wheel drive. And I couldn't get it right. Everything I did, it was just too noisy. And that's unacceptable.
Yeah, of course.
So I kind of gave up, and I just said, screw it. I'm getting this different rear axle, and just going to be rear wheel drive. And I did that, and it worked really well. So the evolution was there. It was coming. The way the car design was more of a, it's ground up. It's purpose built. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was way better. At rigging, the rigging points were so good. I had rigging points everywhere, easy access to everything. And it was great. Basically the same power system that we were using at Grip Tricks. That was a great power system. So that's what I did at TCC. That unfortunately went south pretty quick.
Okay.
So the good thing that came out of that going south was it pushed me to just do it 100% on my own.
Right.
And I didn't have anyone over my shoulder telling me this is the budget and you need to do this and you need to do that. It's like, I already knew what I needed to do. I was constantly fighting people on what needed to be done.
Right.
And I got to just do it 100% on my own with 100% my ideas. And it just, not saying I'm the smartest man in the world, but I know what we need.
Yeah, I mean, you're out there in the field. You're hearing, you're feeling, you're making all this. Yeah. So you now move on.
Yeah, so moved on, started Patriot camera cars, scraped my pennies together, and just started building 2 chassis.
Okay.
Granted, these are from the ground up now, so it's quite a bit of work. I was building those chassis in my 1-car garage, just making it work.
Right. So you're in the garage, you're making 2 chassis,
Yeah.
2 other companies that you worked with already have the cars already out there.
Yeah, I'm not working. I'll get a few grip days here and there,
Okay.
but mostly just head down, trying
So-
to get one car done.
Right.
Yeah, but building
sorry.
2 of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I was just sorry to interrupt you, but just so we understand each other, you didn't start off as a grip or a dolly grip. You're a fabricator, and then you got into the local because you had to drive these vehicles.
correct.
Okay, so now you have your local 80 card. You've already went through 2 companies with these type of vehicles,
Right.
and now you're on your own
Yeah,
in your garage,
yeah,
and now you're building 2 chassis,
yeah. And I have 2 small kids,
and you have 2 small kids on top of that.
and it was scary. But I was very motivated.
Wow, so you want to talk about that process? You got 2 chassis you're working on. You got 2 kids in the house. The wife's going, well, what's going on?
Well, the wife was on board, which
Oh,
was
good.
good. You know, and
Yeah.
we had a little bit of money, not a lot, but I was also spending a lot of money. And my parents did help out a little bit, gave me a small loan to kind of get me kickstarted.
Which is even more pressure.
Yeah, but it was kind of one of those loans where it's like, pay us back when you can.
Okay, good.
Not a big deal.
Right.
So that was
So it sounds like you never even consider failure. I mean,
no.
you got 2 kids in the house, you got a wife, and now you're borrowing money
Failure
from the
wasn't
parent.
an option.
Yeah, it was not an option.
No.
You had to succeed, and you probably already knew you were.
I had nothing to rent, to drive on set, but yet I'm still getting calls.
So you're getting calls for a vehicle that you don't have yet.
Exactly.
Did these people know that you?
At that point, I
Stepped
explain
away?
I'm currently in business for myself, and
Okay.
I'm a month and a half out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And
Call me back.
yeah, please.
Okay. So now you have what? 1 vehicle ready, 2 vehicles ready to go.
So I got 1 vehicle ready. I actually had to wait for parts, unfortunately. So it took longer, probably by a month.
Okay.
But yeah, it probably took me about 4 months to build the first car. Granted, I was building a second one at the same time. So anything that I could build somewhat inexpensively, I would do it. And then the harder parts like batteries, power system, stuff like that, expensive stuff, I would get it later. So I'd get one car ready to go, have the other one basically rolling, and get that one going. So it was August of
Oh, you got the date.
2015.
Okay. Was it maiden voyage?
I think it was the 7th or 8th of August. I
Okay.
mean, it's pretty vivid, but I remember that first job so well.
Yeah. Tell me about
Yeah,
it. I mean, you get the call. You're
you
anxious.
get the call. I get there. First job. I've tested everything I could test, but now it's time to put it.
You have to perform.
Yeah, it's time to put it to the use, and it performed well.
Good.
I had a few small issues that no one would notice. Like the front end alignment was a little bit off, so I feel it.
Yeah,
but no one else is feeling it.
Right.
It's not affecting the shots at all.
Yeah, I was gonna say you got the shots.
Right.
Okay.
Right. But everything else was performing very well.
So these are all mental notes that you're putting in your
Exactly.
head. So when it comes back to the shop, you're thinking, okay, I got to do this. I got to
Tweak a
tweak
few
that.
things.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the funny thing was, I was just working with the first AD last week.
On that first job, the same guy?
Same guy.
Wow.
First and second AD were the same guys.
Wow.
And I've worked with them a bunch over the years. But I was just telling him, hey, the first job I ever did was with you. And I told, granted, this is almost 10 years ago. And not only that, it was at the first AD's house.
Oh,
We were
really?
filming in front of his house. They were using his garage to put stuff in. And it was kind of one of those weird days where it's very memorable on his end, but it was very memorable on my end.
Right. So much more.
Yeah.
It's like almost full circle now. Like,
Yeah.
look at me now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it was fun. It was scary though. That first job, with that car. It's always any car I build, the first job, I'm always a little, just taking mental notes of everything. All the cars are little one-offs. They're not. Nothing's mass produced.
All right, this is just all you.
Yeah, 90% of the car is me building it,
Wow.
not buying stuff.
You're making everything you need to make in this shop right here for these cars.
Correct.
Wow. So let's go to the name.
Yeah.
Patriot Cars. Where'd you find that name? How did that name come about?
The name came about just thinking of names, just kind of brainstorming with a friend of mine. He's like, you should make the car like red and blue and and white and just very patriotic.
Okay.
I'm like maybe we should call it Patriot Camera Cars.
Ding.
The cars always look like little World War II Willys Jeeps, and then the logo, the star, is very similar to like a World War II.
Yes, it is.
Star, and I'm very much into technology from World War II.
Okay.
And how quickly it excelled, but also it's mechanical and not digital.
Yeah, you had to be out in the road, and something breaks down, you can fix it.
Right.
Well, now I see it.
Yeah.
I get it now. That's great.
But the other thing about Patriot is I feel like I've been fighting for my freedom the whole time in this business. And, like a true patriot fighting for their country, I mean, I was fighting for my life basically, but I felt like it just made sense.
Yeah. It totally makes sense now.
Yeah.
I get it now. That's great.
Yeah.
So now you're on your own. Mm-hmm. You're starting to get calls. Mm-hmm. You have 2 vehicles. How does it go from those 2 vehicles to now?
So, ProCam. If you're familiar with ProCam. So talking to Brian Bryhob of ProCam, he's the owner of ProCam. And he's like, hey, I'd really love to have some of these cars in Atlanta. Like, we keep getting calls and there's nothing there.
Wow.
So we worked out a deal because I've exhausted all my funds. He says, look, I'll float you the money to build 2 more cars.
Wow.
And from there, I'll rent them, and then we'll do a split rental. And I'm like, sounds great to me.
Wow.
And Brian's always been solid. To this day, we're bros. It's not like there was ever a thought, like, he's not the guy that I would second guess on anything. If he says something, I take it serious. And, I trust him 100%. So he's the guy I did want to work with.
That's great. Especially after the 2 other business relationships you had.
Exactly.
You wanted to make sure.
I was a bit standoffish, but
Of course.
this is one guy that in this business that has been solid 100% the whole time.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you have vehicles over in Atlanta right now with ProCam.
Yes, correct.
So you're in
Still
Atlanta,
there.
you're in California. Mm-hmm. Wow. How do you stay relevant in this industry with all these constant changes that are going on? Because you said you started off with Steadicam first, right?
Yes.
And now we're throwing arms on these things now. We're throwing black arms on these things now. How do you stay up with all these new?
The good thing
innovations?
about being on set is you see everything, and if I see something where I'm lacking, I will fix that.
Okay.
Having the tools at my disposal and the know-how to use them, I make pretty much everything I have, including all my accessories. So as stabilized heads started getting more popular, I built the spring arm.
Okay.
Bolts on a post, you could slide it up and down on the post, and then it cantilevers out, and it's got the springiness to it, so it'll take out the bumps in the road.
Yeah, almost like the first black arm, really. I mean, the way.
Yeah, but I built this way before the black
No, that's
arm
what I'm
ever
saying.
came out.
Well, that's what I'm getting at is that you kind of shed light on stabilization before it even really
Right.
caught mainstream.
Right.
So you're thinking ahead.
As
Is
much
what
as
I'm getting at.
possible,
Yeah.
yes.
So
Yes.
you're thinking ahead. You see something, you're making it, you
Yeah.
bring it out, and you're constantly moving the needle.
Correct.
Right? Okay. So you have a stabilizing arm. People are going, wow, this is crazy. This is really cool. I mean,
Yeah.
at least I did. I know that when you do show up on set, it's always an action shot. I mean,
Usually.
a high
Not
potential.
always. But
Okay,
yes.
but a lot of maybe a walk and talk.
We
Okay,
do the
but there is
occasional walk
action
and talk.
to it. You
Yeah.
know, you're not having two people sitting at a dining room table. You're not doing
Right.
those shots.
Right.
You know, so how do you pump yourself up to? I guess what I'm saying is there anything from your past experience that helps you jump into that type of environment? I mean, because TV and film is high pressure.
It is.
And you're being put into a position where you probably have limited notes.
Yes.
You probably didn't even scout the location.
Yes.
And you're being asked to perform and get it right, like probably the first time.
Yes.
You know, because most of it is a stunt. Most
Yeah.
of it's either driving or, you know, action shots. So how do you grab that from within and
Yeah. I mean, my background is motorcycles.
okay?
So, excuse me. I used to build motorcycles. Actually, I still do build motorcycles, and I still ride motorcycles. Love riding my dirt bike, but that really keeps me sharp. I mean, eyes are always moving. You know, obstacles are everywhere,
Right.
and that riding the dirt bike helps me so much with driving the cars. I mean, huge.
Yeah.
You know, because instead of a rock being the obstacle, it could be a person, it could be an animal.
Right.
You know, it could be something up high, like a tree, and sometimes we have arms on the cars, and yeah,
If you didn't have that background, I don't know how
Well,
you could have performed that well.
it's kind of like the racing that I did, working with the racing motorcycles, and learning fabrication. I mean, that was kind of my college.
Wow.
You know, it wasn't, I didn't go to college, you know, high school graduate, did a little bit of junior college, but that was it, you know.
This on-set training with it, and also with your motocross background,
Right.
because you're probably used to those pressure situations and time,
Yes.
right?
exactly.
Time is like, how long is it going to take for you to get this rig ready? How long is it for you to get down and get this shot?
The way I would build a motorcycle for racing, you know, I was doing road racing. So, you know, on street courses, you know,
Okay.
pavement. And you'd have limited time between sessions. Sometimes you'd be in a race that has pit stops. So I would always build a motorcycle to be able to come apart quickly. So you
Okay.
can maximize the changes you need to make within a session.
Wow.
And I build the cars the same way.
Right.
You know, it has to be quick on set. The changeovers, how long is it going to take? You have a PA standing over you, looking
Yeah.
at his watch, and someone else on the other end of the radio going, ask him how long it's going to take.
Right.
You know, it's like, you just asked me 2 minutes ago. I told you it's going to take 5 minutes. You know, but
That's funny.
yeah. But I've built the cars so you can maximize.
Yeah, you're shaving off
changes.
seconds. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know how much 5 minutes costs in the movie industry, but it's probably more than I'm making that
Yeah,
day.
it is.
So if I could save them that 5 minutes, I just justified my job.
Right. Let's talk about safety.
Okay.
You know, we have you behind the steering wheel, but then we also have other crew members on this vehicle
Correct.
doing some pretty crazy stuff at sometimes, right? We always try to push the limits. How do you ensure safety on your vehicles?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, the seats that we could move around on the car all have seat belts.
Okay.
So that'll keep you on the vehicle.
Yeah, so you have lap
Yeah.
belts.
Lap belts.
Okay.
But also depending on the situation, like if we're in a tight situation where where you're going by a wall on this side and you have trees on this side, keep everybody within the car.
Gotcha.
You know, if the car is going to hit something, let the car hit something. Don't let someone's leg be out there to hit something. You
Right.
know
So
what I mean?
probably scouting the routes.
Always scouting the routes.
Right. Always scouting the routes.
Yeah. Look for anything that can be dangerous.
Right.
So whether that be an overhanging tree branch, whether that be a storefront that is open and people are coming in and out,
Yes.
you know, you have to make sure you take care of all that stuff.
Right.
And it, you know, as the driver, you have to be the captain of the ship. So you have to tell people, like, sometimes you have to tell them no. Say, no, we can't do that. And I like to give people reasons, because people are like, you know, some people get a little pissy, like, well, why can't we do that?
Right.
And you go, well, this is why. And I usually give an alternative.
Right.
It's like, we can't do this, but I could do this.
Right.
Yeah. So I always try and give an alternative. I don't want to not get the shot. I want to get the shot.
Right. Because you may see the vehicle in this configuration, but
Right.
once you start putting your stabilizing arm,
Right.
you're going to need to be putting posts and crossbars.
Right.
And nowadays we're putting little telescoping cranes on these things.
Right.
And you got a guy hanging on the end of that bucket. How
Right.
do you keep him safe?
So I carry,
Or her,
yeah,
sorry.
in all my trailers, I carry a belt and some straps to keep him in. Sometimes we'll build like a butt bar. It's all, for me, it's all about safety. Yes, we could push the limits a little, but let's keep it as safe as possible. You know, sometimes you're doing some stuff with other cars and they're doing a stunt and you're supposed to just be on the sidelines, but if that stunt goes wrong, you still want to keep everybody safe.
Right.
You know, sometimes that car will move 10 foot closer to you and it could scare everybody.
Right.
Whatever it may be. You know, you just want to make sure no matter what, you have an exit plan and you're safe.
Right. I think that's the key, right?
Yeah.
And anything is have an exit plan.
Yeah. I do take it very seriously about, you know, it's one thing if I hurt myself, but it's hard to live with if I hurt somebody else.
Yeah.
You know? So for me, I take it very, very serious, and I want to keep everybody comfortable and safe on the car.
2 more questions. Okay. Now, I know you've done a lot of day playing on a lot of different shows,
Yes.
but what shot stands out to you the most?
The Desperate Housewives. It was a Christmas, I think it was a Christmas special,
Okay.
and a plane landed on Wisteria Lane, or crash landed on Wisteria Lane.
All right.
So me and the best boy rigged up 2 cameras off the front of the car, and then he had the airplane windshield. So we mounted that in front of the camera.
POV.
So we're doing POV. And I just had to go haul ass down the street. And it was cool. We did a few takes of that, hauling ass, and we would stop right in front of this little like Christmas display thing that they had. And they said, okay, this is going to be the last one we're going to do. You know, I want you to run into the fence. And it was just like a foam fence. It was, you know, nothing that would hurt the car.
Right.
But it would look cool on camera, I'm sure. So yeah, so the last one I got to run through the fence, which was cool. I don't know which one they used because I never saw the episode. But that was just something I never had thought of.
Yeah, because you normally don't want to hit anything.
Right.
And they're asking you to plow right through
Yes.
things. Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
Last question. If you were to do it all over again, would you still do this again?
I would. I really enjoy what I do.
Nice.
Maybe I would have gone about a few things a little different, but I think the end goal is the same.
Yeah.
You know, doing something I enjoy doing. I love being on set and being social, and then at the same time, coming back to my little shop and just being by myself,
Yeah.
you know?
Best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Well, I enjoy when you come to the set.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it because I always know that you're going to be there and we're going to get the shot. And that takes a certain talent, which
Yeah.
you have.
Yeah.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you so much, man.
man.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your cars. Thank you for being you and bringing your professionalism to the set all the time and just your good attitude about being involved in the shot. We try to give you as much information as we possibly can, but we're not in the chair like you are, and you do such a great job.
I always feel like I ask weird questions, but they're like weird questions that I need to know the answer to do my job the proper way.
Yeah. And we're here to answer those weird questions.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thanks a lot, Aaron. Thank you very much for this. Appreciate it. All right. Whew.